On today's show, the Phoenix Suns season has come and gone. How to properly evaluate this Suns season and what are the biggest concerns still plaguing them. We'll talk about that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. Thank you for tuning in on this Wednesday night, Thursday morning, potentially edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns. My name is Benjamin Garcia. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a lot of things to get into. We're going to properly evaluate this Suns season, what's fair, what is just nonsense, what are the biggest concerns still plaguing this team, and the early Jalen Green discourse. It's going to be a long off season. We're going to walk our way down this lonely path and try to pick up the pieces and figure out how this Suns team can get better. Joining me on today's episode of Locked On Phoenix Suns, my guy, managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun, host of the Suns Jam Session podcast, the original post-game podcast, the original live post-game podcast, my guy, John Voita. John, so here is how I evaluated the Suns season. And I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I do take some pride in the way that I evaluated this Suns season. And I want to know if you agree. It is obviously a success, a smash hit. This is when I think it is fair for people to say, if I told you before the season started, they'd be 45 and whatever, they'd make the playoffs and they got swept by a historically great team, you would have taken that. I don't want to take anything from that. That is 100% a very successful season on its own. But with that being said, the last 2 months to me were incredibly concerning. And the things that I thought were the most concerning, this is what I narrowed it down to. I don't think they have an identity on offense or on defense right now. I just think they're a team lost. Multiple different players, Allen, Gillespie, Brooks, Williams, Bouye at one point, Goodwin, numerous players had career years and then kind of resorted back to the mean. I have no idea what players they are right now, pre 2 months ago or the players now. Jordan Ott looked a little overwhelmed to end the season. And in my opinion, Jalen Green and Devin Booker just don't work. We will see if those things, rear their ugly head later on next year. Only time will tell if my concerns are valid. How do you evaluate the Suns season? The success of it and also the, can't ignore some of the things that happened in the season.
Yeah, I think it's a season that's defined by effort, identity, and unfinished business. Because while it ended in a sweep, the direction of the franchise hasn't been this clear in years. And it's, I think, proper to be critical of the way that they performed over the final 2 months, but you also have to take into account the injuries that this team had, not only during that time frame, but during the entire year, right? Jalen Green misses 50 games. Booker misses 18. Dylan Brooks misses 20-something games, 22 games for Mark Williams. That's 4 of your 5 starters. That's 116 games combined that they missed this season. So it's hard to execute the identity that was present at the beginning of the year as injuries took hold at the back end of the year. It's hard to keep the intensity going when you have guys who have never played as many minutes as they have that were asked of them this season, like Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin for that matter. So there's a lot of things to take away from this season. Despite everything that I just said, they still won 45 games. They still earned the 7th seed relative to the standings and the 8th seed in the playoffs. And I think that the way that I evaluate this season is this was always a season of development, of progression relative to what we thought they were going to be last year, and of identity. And I think that those things have been established. The key moving forward is to continue fortifying those attributes and to truly define what being a member of the Phoenix Suns is. I do feel that Ott was somewhat overwhelmed, but he also learned in those instances. We'll see what those lessons learned will be next season. But this was a step in the right direction. And if you look back at the 2025-26 Suns, you go, what was that season? It was a step out of the darkness of the era in which this team overspent and overshot their expectations with disappointment, and it took a step in the right direction. And they probably, obviously exceeded expectations. And as we go into next season, obviously those expectations are going to rise. What does that look like? That becomes an exciting question.
So I would agree with all of that. My question then would be, my expectation when the Suns went into the Thunder series is I was not going to change my mind. No matter what happens, it was a successful season.
Agreed.
To you, because they got swept, is there anything that takes away from this? Because to me, yes, the Suns had multiple different concerns, and there's the Devin Booker aspect that we can get into a little bit. There's the Jalen Green aspect that we can get to a little bit. But it does feel like when you are swept, especially against the Thunder, because it felt like it was a litmus test for them. Like, let's see just how far away we are from a title. It did feel like they were light years away. And that's what I think sparked the questions of trading Devin Booker, which, again, the Suns are not going to do, and I'm not really super interested in entertaining if I know it's not going to happen. Trading Jalen Green, which feels, sometimes even less likely than trading Devin Booker. Do you feel like the Suns are so far away that it's not even worth pushing forward?
No, I think that they are so far away, but that's okay. The goal here, in all honesty, and I think that we're going to be treated to a very special Western Conference Finals. I really do. I think it's going to be the Spurs, it's going to be the Thunder, it's going to be the teams that are going to define the next 5 years of success in the Western Conference. And just because that is probably a fact outside of major injuries to members of those teams, it doesn't mean you just throw your hands up and go, well, we're not going to win the Western Conference, so what's the point of doing any of this anyway? You still want to have progression as an organization, as a franchise, in building a culture. Because if you just throw your hands up and say, you know what, it's okay to lose while we try to, get draft picks and let's bottom out by getting rid of Devin Booker. We did that exact strategy a decade ago when the Golden State Warriors were dominating the Western Conference. And I just don't think it's a strategy because it builds a culture of losing. And that's what the Suns had a decade ago. Devin Booker came out of that entire period, and that's we hit on a diamond in the rough, but a lot of guys who were drafted a lot higher than him didn't make it through because they were put into a situation where they didn't have to earn it, where the culture wasn't strong, where the foundation was non-existent, and therefore they just kind of existed in this environment that incentivized losing. Looking at this series, it doesn't change my opinion. In fact, I'm thankful for it because, for example, in his exit interview yesterday, Oso Ighodaro said, it was crazy, man. Like, OKC was calling out every offensive play every time down the court.
Crazy, yeah.
And I love that, though, because Oso, a young player, got to see that and feel that. It's one thing if you're playing an opposing team like the OKC Thunder on a Tuesday night in March, right? You see them, they're good, and you walk away, you go, wow, that's what excellence looks like. But when you have to play in a playoff series where you're facing the same team time and time again, and you learn each other's tendencies and you understand where basketball IQ is so important, to see that as a young sophomore player and to experience that, that's what you can point to and go, Oso personally can go, that's where we need to get to. And that's where the resolve comes. That's why people are unsure of what the San Antonio Spurs are going to do this postseason, because the majority of their players haven't been through that exact situation. So I'm thankful that young players got an opportunity to experience that. I'm thankful that Jalen Green got an opportunity to go into the postseason after having a bad postseason against Houston a year ago and feel what some success looks like. I'm thankful that Dillon Brooks showcased to the young players, like, hey, when the going gets tough, I'm going to get going. I wish I would have seen more of that from Devin Booker, but Dillon Brooks delivered that. And so those are things that are positive, walking away from being swept by a juggernaut of a team.
Let's go into the Suns' biggest concerns then now, because I think one of them you just mentioned, and, depending who you are, you're not a real fan if you go after Devin Booker. So let's include Booker in that. What are the biggest concerns for the Phoenix Suns right now? Because even though it was a great season, they kind of still have a decent amount of them. Let's talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Kalshi. The playoffs are here, and it's the most electric time in basketball. On Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. Well, listen, we're looking at some of the Kalshi statistics we got on there. Denver at Minnesota tomorrow. Denver, 67% chance of winning. Minnesota, 34% chance of winning. You got a potential payout there of $145. You don't feel like that? What about New York and Atlanta? New York, 56% chance. Atlanta, 45% chance. Payout of potentially $173. Listen, you talk about Kalshi and all the different things you can do over there on Kalshi. You're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your positions for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code Locked On. Remember, that's code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi. One more time, Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on everything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contracts trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and all available markets may differ from those method. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Keeping the show rolling. So we have a few different things that I think are the Suns' biggest concerns right now. One, you've got a looming Colin Gillespie extension. And I will continue to say this, John. I said this for months. I don't think Colin Gillespie regressed. And I know that I am a massive Colin Gillespie guy. There is something wrong with his right shoulder. And I am curious when that comes out. I will be floored if we don't see something that said Colin Gillespie had some arthroscopic shoulder surgery, just some cleaning out or something. Devin Booker, who we can get to right away, but he, what are you supposed to do with him? He's making a lot of money. People talk about potentially trading him. John, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Devin Booker's value is as high as other people think it is. It's a massive contract. Jalen Green, what is his fit with the Suns? Jordan not put off to the side because rookie head coach, but they've got a lot of different roster concerns. Which one do you think is the biggest? And does it feel like Devin Booker's leading the way? Yes or no?
I don't think that Devin Booker's leading the way at this point. I think that the biggest concern, at least for me, is roster balance. I think that year one was about getting out of the Beal contract, trading Kevin Durant, getting back what assets you could, and going into year two of this retool, it's creating balance on that roster. If that's having Rasheer Fleming start next year and you actually having size at a power forward, if it's moving off of Jalen Green, which is a possibility. I think that Booker, there is some concern there. Absolutely. Not as physical as he was needed to be at the back end of games and at the back end of the season, not as effective, not as efficient. I think that those are concerning things when you're looking at, 3 more years of him on your books and 2 of those years being supermax status. I think that that's something that, the Suns are going to take a look at and evaluate. And I think that there's no world where you're moving off of Booker this year. I think if we have a similar result next year, if what happened this year at the back end of the season, the postseason, happened at the end of next year, after you've had 2 years post the KD era, if you will, I think we're having a different conversation and we're exploring options. And I think also at that time, his value potentially could be higher than it is right now because there's only 3 years left on that deal. And so I think it's concerning, but I don't think it's actionable. I think some of the other things are actionable. How do we get back Colin Gillespie? John Gambador just tweeted out that I expect the Suns' top priorities this offseason to be retaining Colin Gillespie, retaining Jordan Goodwin. So what does that mean with Mark Williams? What does that mean with how you want to operate around the fringes with Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal? Again, not concerning things necessarily, but things that you and I will be discussing for the next month and a half until the draft comes and then following shortly thereafter free agency.
Yeah, I feel like Devin Booker is a higher concern than people are leading on. I mean, truly, John, I think it is pathetic, the people that are out there putting up the walls over Devin. It's like the army meme where, the guy's sleeping in the bed and they're just like shielding all the blame from Devin Booker. I've had people very close to Devin Booker who you know of who have called me certain names for the things that I've said about Devin Booker. He is what is fair criticism of Booker and what is too much, because John, this is the long-winded way of saying this, and other people have heard this on the show, but I don't think I've told you. I did not raise the expectation of Devin Booker this year. When other shows got mad at me, people close to Devin Booker got mad at me, I did not raise the expectation. Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory, when they gave him a 2-year, $145 million extension, they told me he is no longer this, max player. He is a super max player. Hold him to that expectation. And John, I don't care about the double team discourse. Yeah, guess what, John? Guess what other super max players get their defenses shaded their way, get double teams rolled their way. I think it is a bigger concern than people are leading on. I think people say, like, we just entered Devin Booker's prime. John, I think this is it. I don't think it gets much better.
Well, and you know, as well as I know, being critical of Devin Booker in this town is something that a lot of people take offense to because there's an emotional connection to who and what Devin Booker means to this city culturally and to this franchise for taking us out of the doldrums that we were living in over a decade ago. That being said, it would be irresponsible to not be critical of anybody on the team or in any sport. That's part of fandom. We're not critical of Devin Booker because we want him to fail. We're critical because we're noting where the deficiencies are and trying to find ways to subsequently, adjust around those deficiencies. I've written on these kind of articles on Brightside, especially recently. Devin Booker has one elite skill, and that's unfortunate for a supermax player. He's an elite jump shooter. He's not a great 3-point shooter. He's elite not great at finishing. Yeah, elite jump shooter, mid-range jump shooter. He's not an elite defender. He's not an elite shot blocker. He's not an elite rebounder. He's not an elite 3-point shooter.
Is he an elite playmaker?
No,
I don't think so either.
He's an above-average playmaker.
I think he's good.
I think he's good too. But I also think that the Suns have mishandled his prime, and this is part of that conversation. They've mishandled his prime because they've put him in a position where he's not playing off ball, where he thrives, where he has showcased throughout his career that that's how he operates best. And when you go back and you look at the 11 years of Devin Booker and you go, wow, there's only 2, maybe 3 seasons where the Phoenix Suns were a viable contender with Devin Booker on the team. Part of that blame goes on Devin Booker, and a lot of that blame goes on the organization. So 2 things can be true at once. But again, I think that being critical of Devin Booker is part of being a fan because you want your best player to play like the best player. And when you're compensating him as such, as you just mentioned, being paid as much as Devin Booker is being compensated, there's expectations that go with that relative to performance. And when that performance doesn't come, it's okay to understand that the fan base in aspects might be mad. It's understandable that the media might be a little upset. I don't know why so many people get frustrated with you're going after Devin Booker. I'm not going after him. I would literally just tweet out a Devin Booker statistic.
I saw,
like how he performed in the postseason. And I got people in my DMs being like, dude, why do you hate Booker? It's like, no, I'm just putting out the stats, man. I also put out the stats when he plays well too. It's a holistic conversation. You can take one aspect of that conversation. And again, this is modern fandom and being online. And if you listen to the latest Ryan Russillo podcast, they had a really good discourse about just this very topic right here. So it is concerning at this point, but it's not something that, again, I think that the Suns deem as actionable at this point.
Yeah. So the Devin Booker thing, is interesting, and here's why I think it's even more interesting. This is why it's so stupid to say you hate Devin Booker or you dislike the guy or you want him to fail or you want him ran out of town. If Devin Booker demanded a trade right now, I don't think his value is as high as other Suns fans think it is. This is a guy that is going to be making $68 million in his age 33 season. John.
Approximately. Remember that this is based off the cap. So he will be making 36% of the cap that season. It's not a hard number yet because the cap number hasn't been defined. People always run, he's going to make $75 million. No, he's not. Mm-hmm. It's the progression of the cap dictates. Right now he's making 34.6% of the cap.
He's going to make 36.
36. Now, again, that number becomes inflated when you factor in the fact that we have $23.2 million in dead cap money. So that projected cap number, the 36%, actually becomes more like 44% of your cap, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I've mentioned that before on the show that it is a percentage of cap, but when you have to, the thing is you got to give that money to him. So let's just say it is that he's going to be owed 36% of the cap when that time comes. He's coming off of a regression, a season where he regressed. Even if he was a slightly more efficient to some respects, he was a terrible three-point shooter over the last 2 seasons. He's still a great player. He's still an all-star player.
Yeah.
But I think in a world where the aprons matter now and draft picks are seriously at a premium now, like of course they're at a premium now when the Suns don't have any, I don't think his value is that high. So why the hell would I want to run Devin Booker out of town so I can get 2 first-round picks and potentially some bad contracts for him?
Well, but even in that conversation, Ben, let's say you get 4 first-round picks. You're trading Devin Booker to a team, and if you put him in the right environment, you're not getting great picks. You're getting end of first round picks, 4 end of round first picks for a Devin Booker. So again, it's what's the benefit of doing that? What's the just blow up your team, have no continuity? Because again, the things that Devin Booker do well, he does bring stability. We witnessed that when he was out with injury. A lot of players this year had career years. You can thank Devin Booker for that. He pulls the gravity. He gives them the ball, whether it's an assist or a hockey secondary assist. So a lot of guys had career years because Devin Booker. So there was some regression this year, but I wouldn't look at it through the lens of statistics. I would look at it through the lens of how he performed late in games, late in the season, where Devin Booker would go missing, where he'd go 0 for 3 from the field. And you're like, where's Devin Booker? We just watched Jalen Brown go 7 of 11 from the field. Where's Devin Booker, trading the blows with him and whatnot. So I think that's where the regression occurred, is the physicality late. I don't know if his body wasn't ready for it. And we might find out in a couple of days that he was injured. Because if you told me he was injured for the past 2 months of the season,
he's not.
I know, but if you told me, I could buy it because that's what it looked like.
I don't have sourcing, and I don't want to pass off like I have sourcing. I am not a reporter.
There's some guys who have like 500 followers on Twitter who are really
ridiculous.
They're great sources.
People listen to them. I can't. But I'm always very open with people. I have no sources. How about this? I would be very surprised that if Devin Booker came out with some sort of knee injury. Also, he said himself, hey, Doug Haller asked him, hey, something going on? Nope. Which, by the way, salute to Devin Booker for being like, nope, that's a guy who was like, that's on me. And that's who the hell doesn't want to see Devin Booker win a championship here? It is so mind-bogglingly stupid. And the shows that have continuously defended him, like Booker would tell you himself he didn't play well.
Yeah.
Let us hold him accountable.
And that's leadership. Another thing that I think that he
100%.
really showcased this year is he progressed
100%.
relative to leadership. We were wondering if it would manifest itself. I honestly believe it did. So again, there's a lot of great things about Devin Booker, but there's also, nobody's perfect, man. You could talk about SGA. You can talk about Jokic. You can pick any player, and any fan base is going to be critical of their players, especially their highest paid players, because the highest expectations come with them. So when they fall short, we're going to sit there and go, I wonder why.
Let's move on to the Jalen Green conversation. Devin Booker, like if you're not listening, but I know some people that are close that might be listening. We like Devin Booker. We love Devin Booker. We want to see him win a championship, but we're going to hold guys accountable on this show because that's what fans deserve. Well, you know what I'm going to do? Never mind. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go that far. Anyways, early Jalen Green discourse. I've got concerns. It's no one's fault, but I think it's just bad roster construction.
Yeah.
Dylan, Booker, Jalen. I think someone's got to go. Let's talk about that next. Closing out the show. There has been some bad roster construction. I think that there is definitely more of a reason to believe, like to give the Suns some slack this year because they did the best that they could. Now, people are dooming and glooming on the Suns. They've got a decent amount of options out there. They got the biannual mid-level exception. They've got the non-taxpayer full mid-level exception, which, guys, that's so important. That can get you a very good player. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Nickeil Alexander-Walker got that last year. Maybe he got a little bit more. Regardless, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if I'm not mistaken, won most improved player this year.
Keldon Johnson did.
Keldon Johnson. He was in the running, though.
He was.
There's a multiple different avenues the Suns can go. I don't think any of it matters until they pick between these 3 players. Booker, Brooks, Green. We don't need to get into what trade details look like. But John, I didn't see a lot, but what I did see, the early returns were not great. Someone's got to go, and I'm not trading Devin Booker. And I don't think, I know if you lined up Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green up to the NBA public, which guy would get significantly more draft capital and trade interest in return. I would move on from Jalen Green. Do you think it is too early to pull the plug on these guys?
Why do we need to pull the plug on them?
It doesn't work. Or John, or Mr. Hot Take guy has got a better idea. I was talking to another media member who had no idea. It was an Oklahoma City media member. What am I saying? It was my guy Rylan from Locked On Thunder. People already know who I'm talking to. And him and I were talking, and he goes, you know what the Suns need to do? They need to sit down Jalen and say, hey, Malik Monk, Lou Williams, Manu Ginobili, guys who could be Hall of Famers. Manu Ginobili, who is 6 Men of the Year type players. Leandro Barbosa. Come off the bench, man. If he would be willing to do that, I am all for keeping Jalen Green around, because Jalen Green, when he is on the court and has one job, score the damn basketball, I believe he can do that. What say you?
Who would be the starting point guard?
Colin Gillespie. I'm
Incorrect.
not moving off
See,
that mountain.
That's where we differ, because Colin Gillespie he's a bench guy. Because here's how I see it. Okay, I get what you're saying, and this is good conversations, good thought exercises. But I think where the Suns did themselves a disservice this year is in the few games where all three of those guys actually played together. Right? You had Dylan playing the 4. It should be Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks as your point guard, shooting guard, small forward. Put some size. Give me Rasheer Fleming at the 4. Okay, don't give me Royce O'Neal. Give me, and we're talking next year, so Royce is probably gone. Give me Rasheer Fleming, and then give me Williams or Malawach at the 5, because I think that's where the challenge arose for the Suns this year. Is they just went too small. They went a little too small, and they added another shooter out there who ate into the shot diet, not well, mind you, because again, as you noted, Colin Gillespie, most likely an injury to his shoulder, a lot of cupping on that right shoulder that we saw at the back end of the season. Because I don't think that there's enough data to pull upon from this season to truly make an educated decision at this time. I honestly believe, as I said at the front end of the podcast, with the amount of injuries that occurred this year, I think that the organization is going to try to run it back and improve on the fringes, knowing that they won 45 games with a roster that was unbelievably injured this year, that they want to see what Devin Booker, and remember that by the time Jalen Green was healthy, Colin Gillespie was already playing at a great level. That's why he continued playing as a point guard in that scenario. They're like, he's playing great as a starter. We're going to see how it works with the starter. Played for like 5 minutes, and then Booker's out, and then the cascade of injuries occurred. So I think that from a Suns perspective, now don't get me wrong, I think that Booker and Jalen Green are duplicative from a positional level. I think that it's not smart roster construction or cap management to have your 2 highest paid players play the same position. I just don't think it is.
And can't hit a 3.
And yeah, well, Jalen, yeah, very true.
And 1 for 10 in the last game.
Yeah,
Book
but that really tanked
this year.
But that really tanked his postseason percentages, because he was having a decent postseason. If you include the play-in, like, he was decent. Okay, again, law of averages. They're both not great 3-point shooters, and perhaps that's why Colin was on the floor, because he is a quality 3-point shooter, and that's why Royce is on the floor in certain situations. But I think that this organization is going to look at it through the lens of, you know what? Let's see what this is when they're all healthy out there together. Because this was just an unfortunate season. It started with the hamstring injury from Jalen Green. It cost him 45 games at the front end of the season. We didn't, and in his absence, the team played great. The identity was there. Everyone had defined roles. Once he came back, it was harder to manage those roles, because some people earned roles outside of the norm because of the way they played. So I'm not against moving off of Jalen Green, but I think that the organization likes him and wants to see what he has.
So just so we're clear, I have been painted as just like anti-Jalen Green, and I don't want to hide from that completely, because some of that, I'm anti what Jalen Green does. I'm not anti-Jalen. If this team didn't have facsimiles on the team already. That was, same thing as Devin Booker, which is this, fancy way of saying a synonym of each other. John, the most damning thing you said is why didn't we get Rasheer Fleming with those guys in the lineup? That's the thing that is the most frustrating. I want to see Dylan play more off ball. I want to see Rasheer Fleming as a consistent 3-point shot chucker. We'll figure out the center position as we go. The Mark Williams thing, again, that's another option the Suns have. They're going to get something back for him. I just don't know what they're going to get back. And I'm not just trying to push Jalen Green out the door. John, the one thing that was really concerning was him and Devin Booker just couldn't hold on to the damn basketball against Oklahoma City. And I know Oklahoma City's ball pressure is impeccable. It can't look like how it looks like when I coach junior Suns tonight, where I can just steal the ball from one of the 8-year-olds. It was bad. I mean, it was pissing down your leg bad. And I can't, I need a better ball handler.
I get it, but the advantage, the thing that Jalen Green brings and the way that he was turning over the ball was through aggression. He was trying to get to the basket, and sometimes he'd lose it, right? It wasn't, he had a couple poor passes, but Booker was the one who was making more of the poor passes. Worse. Yeah, he was throwing the ball
way worse.
Exactly, and that's where that's a positive for Jalen Green. Again, I'm with you. There's a lot of things that he does for the price that you pay for him that I don't like. All right.
And
that's the challenge with Jalen Green. He's going to be 36 point something million, 36.6, I think is what it is next year. Then 36 the year after that, which is the player option.
He got a player option.
He's picking it up. And so that's the concerning part, because if he was a $25 million a year player, we're not even having this conversation. The price or value paid is there, but with that high price tag and with the pending extension in the air, probably not the offseason, but I'm sure there might be some talks this offseason about an extension.
He's extension eligible this year.
Correct.
He's extension eligible.
Correct.
And then so's Dylan, by the way.
Yep. And that's an extension I think you pick up. Now the price has got to be right. I think it should be like 4 for 80, or 4,
for Dylan.
Yeah, he's a $20 million a year player.
In an instant, I'm giving Dylan 4 for.
It'll probably be 4. It'll probably be 4 for 100 is my guess. And that's 25. But you build in the back end in that fourth year, you build in a team option in that fourth year. But I think I honestly think that's the route to go with him. But with Jalen Green, again, I get what you're saying relative to the turnovers, but I like the turnovers in the fact that he was doing so in an aggressive manner, bringing something that this team does not have, and that's ability to put pressure on the rim.
He's got to do it more efficiently. He's got to do it more efficiently.
And we know he's not going to. That's the other side of this. We know it. That's his career MO. That's who he is. I don't know anybody who at the age of 25 all of a sudden became an unbelievably more efficient player.
And here's the other thing too. If you trade Jalen Green, I'm only saying this because someone put it out on social media today. I don't believe the sourcing. I think it's all nonsense. But the player is interesting. The only way you're trading Jalen Green is getting back a damaged goods player as well. DeJounte Murray. Ja Morant, someone like that. Now, again, I'd rather, dive head first off Mortgage Matchup Center than bring Ja Morant here. DeJounte Murray's kind of interesting, but you're getting someone who all package. And so when you talk about that, I mean, Jalen would be interesting. I would still really consider sending him to the bench, even if it's not Colin. Maybe you do get a legitimate point guard in here. But
there's no such thing anymore.
Not a true point guard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying Chris Paul.
You said legitimate, yeah.
A legitimate guard. How about that? A legitimate ball handler. But you're right. Just so we can, because I feel like I do have to defend myself whenever we do this. Booker was way worse at handling the basketball. It was way worse. Anyways, let's go. Let's leave it at that. We're gonna have a long postseason, man. We've got a long off season, and I'm starting to get more excited. There are more options than you think out there for the Phoenix Suns. It's going to be busy. And I don't have to do the thing where I try to gas up vet minimum players. So,
yeah, amen. And what I'll say is to anybody who's listening or watching, if you get a chance, head over to Bright Side of the Sun. Thursday morning, I have a piece that's coming out that's kind of along these same lines. It's like, you know what? The season just ended. I get it. It's the beginning of the offseason. And I'm really looking at this from a 50,000-foot view. What should the Suns do in the short term and the long term understanding that the Thunder and the Spurs are kind of the elite of the NBA and will be for the next half decade. Looking at this through the lens that 2030 is a really key year for the Suns because draft capital matures, Devin Booker comes off the books, and the Bradley Beal money comes off the books. So should we approach this offseason with the mindset of trying to progress while simultaneously keeping in mind that we don't want to, expend our assets from beyond 2030 in an effort to try to just fluff up a roster right now that ultimately isn't going to win a championship? You want to have progression, you want to be productive, but you also have to keep the long-term vision in mind, which is kind of boring for people. It's not exciting, but it's the right thing to do. So go to brightsideofthesun.com.
John Voita, managing editor, Bright Side of the Sun, host of the Suns Jam Session podcast, the original live streaming post-game show.
Yeah, no post-games. So we'll be live every morning at 9 a.m. on the Suns Jam Session YouTube page. So if you want to hang out on Sunday mornings, grab a cup of coffee and hang out with myself and my co-host Matthew Lissy. We'll be talking Suns every Sunday.
We going to go to Summer League together this year?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Yeah, maybe.
I'll be there.
Fun. I tried to go last year, but then I didn't.
Yeah, that happens.
It's a fun story. It's a fun story. I was going to go, and then I didn't.
It's like me every Friday night. With that being said, hit that like, share, subscribe button, follow us on all social media platforms down in our little square boxes below. You can see that. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow to break down some more Suns offseason as we pick up the pieces here on Locked On Phoenix Suns. See you guys later.
We love you, Booker. Oh, yes, we do. We love you, Booker. And we'll write a love letter to him. When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Booker, we love